That's the intro right there.
Just me going.
Woo! Toby Woo. Woo!
The ultimate drop.
It's fifth period. The party's fifth period. Get headphones and hear it. Let me hit that pod record. That pod record. Let me hit that pod record.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fifth Period, the film podcast hosted by two media teachers, where today we're going to answer the question who done it, where they done it, and what they done it with. My name is Mr. Brown, and with me as always is...
Professor at Mr. Boylan.
Nice. You're actually Mr. Green, though. You're not even a professor.
He's you don't really know who he is. So he could be anyone you want him to be.
So true. You can see we are decked out with all of our Clue props. There is one missing, but that's up to you to figure out what it is and tell us in the comments.
It's also the fact that they can see us at all. Mr. Brown. We're
Pretty
back
exciting.
on video.
We're back, baby.
You can see us in living colour.
That's it.
Look in my eyes.
And
what
look,
do you see?
look how dressed up you got.
I know. We're all
fancy.
suited and booted.
I know, and it is 100 degrees in here, so
Yeah.
we're very uncomfortable, and it's all for you.
It's all for you.
It's all for you.
This right here,
Is it your MacBook?
not my MacBook. No, what's in front of my MacBook? So, I was talking to you at Film Club, and you were like, "Why is it the movie called Clue instead of Cluedo?"
Yes.
And
where the dough go?
Where the dough go?
That's what they say.
No dough, no show. That's what they say.
No dough, no show.
Anyway, so you wanted to know
Let's
on
unpack.
Friday
Yeah.
why the film is called Clue when the board game that we know and love is called Cluedo. So in America, the game is just Clue. So I printed out a version of the Clue board game that I grew up with, but I found the one from America that simply says Clue, no Cluedo.
Interesting.
They were actually meshing the game Clue with Ludo, which is a game where you move around the board and you got to get to different locations. So it kind of works. Not that you'd know. You never played the game.
I've never played Ludo or Cluedo or Clue.
Yeah, it's fun. In addition to our main discussion of Clue today, we will also be talking our 5 favorite murder mysteries, or whodunits, if you will. And then we are going to jump into a Cluedo-themed movie mashups.
The mashup's are back.
They are back. So if you want to skip ahead to any of that, I will leave time codes in the description below.
Hey, I'm Julian, and today we'll be chatting about Clue.
Huge thank you to Julian for his intro to the pod today. It was much sought after. So
Yes.
It was a while back that I was actually looking for someone to do the intro and went and approached Julian. I was like, oh, hey, you got to jump on. You're one of the absolute most dedicated students I've had. You're at Film Club. You never used to be able to come to Film Club because he had music lessons that clashed. You got to come on. It's just so I can sing your praises. And he was like, nah, it's fine.
Playing a bit coy. Okay.
1 week later, and he was like, all right, I'm ready to do it now. And I said, sorry, mate, I've already got someone lined up. And then he kept coming back week after week after week. And we're like, oh, well, today it's this.
We're
Or,
booked in.
yeah, someone already asked us about, you came in late. So it was pretty funny that considering how reluctant he was originally, it ended up being like 6 or 7 weeks before we were able to get
Was it
him
really
back
that
on.
many? Oh, wow. I thought it was like 3 or
Well,
something.
I was away a couple of times.
True.
You didn't know it was teed up. So, yeah, it became a bit of a routine where at the end of it, he sort of sheepishly walked up. Is today
this
the day?
No,
Is
no, it's
Nah,
not. But
sorry.
last week, so that day was the day. Not
was
today.
the day.
He hasn't done the intro today because Film Club was a number of days ago. But he did it.
Yeah, he did do it.
He did it.
He's done it. And I was very glad to get him on. As I said, he's a very, very dedicated student. I've taught Julian a bunch of times now for media. And yeah, he's super creative and
Fantastic.
works really, really hard. And I still show his, I don't know if he knows this, big reveal. I still show his Mentos commercial as an example of like the bar. So this is what you got to achieve.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well,
So thank you very much, Julian. Glad we finally got you on, mate.
worth the wait.
Alrighty, let us jump in.
Let's do it.
Clue, 1985, but not set in 1985.
When's it set, Mr. Brown?
1956, New England. It's a fun intro, I think.
I think so too. I like the opening theme. That's
the music throughout
very,
is
very
amazing.
good. I enjoy that a lot. There was definitely, I could see some of this film's DNA in newer films.
Yeah,
particularly
right.
with like the sort of mansion, castle-y sort of setting. I was like, this kind of looks a little bit like Knives Out.
Yeah, well, 100%. I mean, a mansion is a fairly traditional place to do a whodunit, but because this film has aspects of parody in it, it really does hit all of those tropes very, very hard. One thing that I love in particular about the score, especially in the opening, has this really fun balance of, it sounds quite like daunting and ominous, but it's also very whimsical. Which is absolutely the balance that this film has.
Dark comedy kind of vibe,
Yeah, very much so. So we meet Tim Curry's character. What's his name?
Waddlesworth.
We meet Wadsworth, and he shakes, rattles, and rolls his way into the house. I really love his introduction, especially when he comes in and we see the German Shepherds guarding the house. I think it's such a clever way to kind of set up essentially what is going to happen later on, where he comes in, he's got the bones ready for them, and it's like, oh, he's in charge of this situation, he owns it, he's planned it all out. And then after he gives the bones, he's got this like smug look on his face, and then steps in dog shit. And it's like, it only takes one really small thing for his perfectly crafted plan to then get completely derailed. And we see the exact same thing play out later on, with him obviously being the one that invites everyone there, and then it all turns on its head.
Exactly. It all goes awry. The best laid plans.
Well, that's it. But Tim Curry in general, I just think he is running rings around the other characters in this. Sometimes literal
Quite
rings
literally.
around them, but
and loops and
his
everything.
energy and his performance is so good. And I think that's probably why you said the film maybe steps it up a little bit in the last third or so.
Because he's getting his steps up quite literally.
He really is, and it's so good. I adore him in this. I adore Tim Curry in anything, he's just phenomenal in this. I love it.
He's firing on all cylinders. Delivery, everything he's doing with his body. It's just, he's doing the most.
Oh, yes.
And it's great. It is great.
So we meet Yvette, the maid, and we meet the cook. I don't know if they give the cook a name.
I don't think so.
It's really interesting that you meet these three characters up top, and then none of the characters that feature in the game Clue. And I think it's kind of cool because when you're playing the game Clue, you don't even know this.
You got to tell them
enlighten
and me.
You. Someone's already dead when you start the game Clue, and it's just about who has committed the crime. So you don't actually need a victim in the game. Hence why there's only those 6 characters. But up the top of this movie, you've already introduced us to 3 characters that don't fall into that main pool of suspects.
Okay.
And of course you have to in this because we need a victim. And turns out we need multiple victims as the film goes on. And yeah, I just think that's really cool. Like, there's some elements of that have appeared in other versions of Clue, like the books, as I'll get to a little bit later on. But yeah, it's interesting to bring that in, and especially how they found ways to introduce newer characters. So the cook is obviously someone we've never seen before, but in the game, Mrs. White is usually the maid.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they've obviously gone, we'll just make Mrs. White another guest, and then we'll have a maid as well, just so they can kind of like flesh out those characters.
All right.
But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. But we start to meet all of those traditional characters very, very quickly after that. Colonel Mustard arrives, not his real name, but they establish that they've all been invited there and instructed to use like pseudonyms for the evening.
Nom de guerre.
Yeah. But I think how they introduce the characters is quite good. Like, we've talked about this before. When you've got a big ensemble cast, you don't really have a lot of room to flesh out these big personalities. And so they do these little moments with each of the characters where you kind of establish who they are.
Yep.
And I would say Colonel Mustard is probably the most bumbly of all of them.
Just a little.
He's often involved in the. Oh, actually, him and Mr. Green are often involved in like the physical comedy elements.
Sorry.
When he gets introduced here, Wadsworth comes in and opens the door just into him, and he just like gets closed behind it. I really like those moments, but I do think that there are some slapsticky elements at times in this that fall a little flat. Forgive the pun.
So,
When Mrs. White arrives, played by Madeline Kahn. I adore Madeline Kahn. When we spoke about Young Frankenstein, I really praised her
Yes.
in that movie, but said, oh, look, she doesn't really get an opportunity to shine in that film. But in Clue, she's great. And I specifically referenced a monologue that she kind of does later in this, which we'll get to. But as soon as she's introduced, I'm like, I'm loving everything that she does. Like, she's got her own theme as she comes in. She says that Mrs. White, but she has no idea why she's being called that. And then opens her coat, and it's like the music swells, and it's this giant white coat. Originally, it was a much smaller role.
Okay.
And then because she was like comedy royalty, Madeline Kahn really made the role her own, and like she got a lot more lines. There's a lot of improv in it later on. So yeah, I think it's cool that she was so acclaimed because yeah, I mean, she's one of my favorite characters, and the role would have been completely different in the hands of a lesser performer.
That's fair. Yeah, there's a lot of really, sharp dialogue right throughout this movie, but like in terms of like a couple of the more subtle gags, I think she gets like a lot of it, and it's down to her as a comedic performer. I think is really strong. Yeah,
very, very good. How did you feel about the comedy? Because you mentioned the sharp wit. I love that, and I've got lines and lines of really, really witty stuff coming up later on. But there is probably three forms of comedy in this. Mm-hmm. There's the witty, fast-paced dialogue.
Yep.
There's the slapsticky, physical comedy stuff. And then there's a very unique, like, comedic bit where you repeat something a lot. Like that repetition of things. And sometimes it works really well. Other times you're like, too many times.
Yeah, it sort of gets to, like, there's a few, like, running gags at times, and I'm like, you didn't really need to go back to the well there, but...
The big one when the film starts is because Wadsworth's obviously stepped in dog shit, everybody smells it and checks their shoes upon entry. It's like when it happens a couple times, like, that's pretty funny. And then you're like, all six of them are doing it. Okay. So that stuff doesn't work as well for me, but I do think some of the repetition in dialogue lands. Like later on, we get a lot of like who's on first, what's on second kind of confusion in the way that they say things. And those gags, they could go all day with that for me.
There's some good, I've got a couple late, which are a good time.
Nice. So we meet Scarlett and Horn Dog Professor Plum, and I really like that even though they do depict these male characters as really hitting on the women quite aggressively in this, I like Scarlett's character because she uses it to her advantage.
Yes.
So here when her car is broken down, she sees another car is coming and she like lifts up her leg. So she really uses it as a weapon, and it harkens back to, for me, like some of my favorite moments in noir with the femme fatale characters. Their sexuality is actually a weapon and powerful for them because they can manipulate the men into doing things.
Yeah, the Miss Scarlet character is probably one of the more interesting ones because, kind of does present potentially as someone to sort of keep an eye out for, but then it's like, is it too obvious that it's going to be her? It's kind of a bit of an interesting one. Sometimes a red herring, sometimes not. So they talk about red herrings a lot. So
they do. That's a good gag. We spoke about this on Friday as well. How young Christopher Lloyd looks.
Yeah.
So we were like, wait, when did this come out?
Particularly in relation to Back to the Future.
Yeah. So they were released within 3 months of each other. What happened in those 3 months?
Lots.
He lived 30 years in 3 months and then hasn't aged since.
Yeah, I mean, all the 30 years between 1955 and 1985. So.
That's it. But in particular, because there is this running gag about how Doc's appearance doesn't really change between the times in Back to the Future, it was so funny to think, oh, they could have just like dyed his hair and cut it a little bit shorter, and it would have really made quite a significant difference in the way that he looks, because he looks so much younger in this.
Yeah, like, it was like, oh, he looks like a little bit younger when they take him back to 55 and Back to the Future, but it was like, no, he looks like 40 in this.
Yeah.
Which he might have been. I don't think so. He would have been older than 40 by then.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I don't keep track. I don't keep track.
Of
I don't have a
Christopher
note
Lloyd's age.
on that particular thing.
No?
So,
Ugh, get rid of him.
Just on everything else. So they all arrive there, and one thing that I actually do find pretty interesting about the film is that they're not really dressed in the colors that you would usually associate with them. And I mean, different versions of the game, I'm not even sure if you can see the front one there. They're not wearing, like, Professor Plum isn't wearing purple all the time. But I figured in a movie like this, where they are playing up those campy elements, they would steer into that skid a little bit more.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised because, like, when you were talking about, you know, there's Mr. Green, and I was just like, it's got no green on.
How am I supposed to remember this?
He's got red. He's got blue. That's how I remember characters with what color items that they're wearing, and really threw me.
Yeah, but even though their clothes aren't in the colors, they all arrive in cars that are the same colors as their cars from the game.
Nice.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I thought that was a fun little detail that, I
Little bit
had
of a
never
subtle
noticed
one.
before.
There you go.
So the dinner gong rings and they go into the dining room, and obviously I've seen this a bunch of times before, but I really wanted to look at the details from the game and the details from the film and see how they all kind of flowed together.
Mm-hmm.
And a really interesting thing about the set is that if you bring up the board game, all of the rooms in the game are in the same position as the floor plan for the ground floor of the house.
That's very good.
Yeah, so I found that really, really cool. There's a lot of things about the house in particular that matches the game. So all the secret tunnels and passageways, those exist in the games too, and they lead to the same rooms that they do. Okay. They cross diagonally through the house, but they should just run along the side walls. How do you go diagonal through a house?
I don't know how you do that.
It's a nightmare. But anyway, I found that really, really interesting. And there's a few things about the game later on where I was like, oh, that's cool. I've never noticed that before. So yeah, just fun little details.
Nice.
So dialogue, fast and witty.
Yeah, they all start to sort of work out, and it's also got flying back and forth. And I like sort of the unpacking of their characters, kind of realizing that, like, oh, do you know you from this or that, or how do we? There's a connection there, and that keeps sort of kind of teasing and pulling that thread out, I guess, as the movie goes on. So
they ask Wadsworth if he's the host, and he's like, "No, sir, I'm merely a humble butler. What do you do? I buttle, sir."
Yeah, it's a very common verb that we all use, buttle.
I think it's Colonel Mustard is quoting Kipling. As he's saying it, he hands Scarlett food and then says, "Do you like Kipling?" And she assumes he's talking about the food and goes, "I'll eat anything." It's just, it's quick. It's very, very quick. So Wadsworth announces that they are still missing their seventh guest, Mr. Body. But he is not the host of the party.
No.
Again, another character that doesn't feature in the game, but Mr. Body is a prominent character in the book, the Clue books. So these were ones...
Talk to us about the books.
Yeah, these were ones I read as a kid growing up. I obviously really like murder mysteries, as do you. They're probably a little immature for you to be reading them now, but I think they're the sort of things that you would have loved growing up.
Sure, yeah.
Each chapter was kind of like a mini murder mystery, and just from reading the chapter, it gave you all of the clues to be able to deduce who had done it. Now, because of that, the premise behind each book was that Mr. Body was really rich. He owned a mansion. He invited all of the suspects over. Mm-hmm. He would die, and then you would have to guess who had killed Mr. Body.
Gotcha.
But because each chapter was a new mystery, at the end of the chapter, they would always reveal, oh no, he'd just been bonked on the head, he's fine. And then at the start of the next chapter, he'd die again in a different circumstance.
He wasn't fine. Yeah.
He wasn't. Well, and then at the end of this chapter, he was again. So I thought it was cool that they roped him in. I also just think it's a funny gag with him being called Mr. Body and being the original body.
Yeah.
And like that comes with its own set of fun wordplay later on.
This is true.
Yeah. But so he does end up turning up after they've had a little bit of a discussion. As you said, we don't get too much because they're not supposed to tell too many details.
Correct,
but we find out there's a bit of a connection between some people. But my favorite detail that we find out is that Professor Plum says that he works for UNO, the United Nations organization. And then he says he works for a sub-branch of UNO called the WHO, the World Health Organization. So if you put it all together, he works for you-know-who. So
Voldemort,
good.
Voldemort.
I'd never noticed it before.
We're pretty good.
Yeah. So you noticed last night?
It was a little bit of just like a little, again, you talk about just these quick little gags, and that's a good one. So he works for you-know-who, and just very ambiguous.
Quality.
But then we get Mr. Body coming in.
We do.
Li Ving.
My least favorite character.
I think he's hilarious.
Do you?
I just think his vocal delivery is like stupid.
It's weird, yeah. I don't think it matches the tone of what everyone else is doing.
That's why I'm just like, where's this guy come from?
Yeah. Some of my, and I adore this film, but some of my least favorite parts of the film are as a result of his character.
This is an outrage. You can't hold us prisoner.
As soon as he comes in, the music becomes a little more ominous. Everyone's very tense. They find out they all receive letters inviting them there to, I think the phrasing is like, to end a long-standing financial liability.
Yes, because they're being
blackmailed. Yeah. But we also find out that Mr. Body received a letter, but his letter said something very different, and he withholds that information.
Correct.
But yeah, Wadsworth has instructions that he's following throughout the evening, or at this point we think he's following throughout the evening. So everyone adjourns to the study so he can continue. And Mr. Body tries to make a bit of a run for it. He's a little nervous.
Yeah, just tries to book it basically out of it. It's like, well, no, you can't. Goes into the conservatory.
He does.
And he's like, oh, it's only glass, it's fine. And then
but the way he says it. Why not? It's only glass. It's weird. It's really weird.
Why not? It's only glass.
I tell you, it's only glass.
It's only glass. And I've found it interesting that it's Rottweilers that prevent him from going through, considering they were German Shepherds when they were out the front of the house.
They can be whatever the plot needs them to be.
That's true. I needed them to be Rottweilers in that moment.
They didn't care what you needed.
What did they care about?
German
Nothing.
Shepherds.
Sassy German Shepherds.
Sassy German Shepherd dogs.
Yeah.
Look at them climb on the glass.
One of these days, we're going to have a podcast where we don't descend into the sassy German. And that is the day I retire from podcasting.
From teaching.
Well, yeah. From accents.
What a sad day that would be. To retire from accents.
Hey. I sense a tone there. So they all go back to the study, and we start to find out the reason that they are being blackmailed.
Yes.
So
all very different reasons.
Yes. So Plum has slept with a patient back when he was a shrink.
Yep.
Peacock took bribes to deliver her husband's Senate votes.
Mm-hmm.
Scarlett is a madam who runs a brothel. Mustard is one of Scarlett's clients, but we actually find out later on that the main reason is because he's a war profiteer.
Correct.
White is a Black Widow suspect of killing her husband. And Green is a homosexual who could potentially lose his government job if they found out.
Correct.
And I'm a homosexual.
I have to just take a moment to talk about how good all of the lines here are. This is when we start to see Curry kind of rattling things off very, very quickly.
That sounds like a confession to me. In fact, the double negative has led to proof positive. I'm afraid you gave yourself away.
And yet he was the one who died, not you, Mrs. White, not you. He's just very, into it and theatrical about it all. And I really love it. And that was an element. So, again, I was telling you the other day, I've done a Whodunnit kind of parody in one of my films as well, and very much based the butler character that I was playing off Tim Curry with that kind of you tone.
You were showing me clips of it in film club while watching Clue, and obviously because we're playing the movie through your computer, you couldn't put the sound on the YouTube clip you were showing me. So it was even better without sound, just going.
Well, here it is with sound.
What the devil are you playing at?
up, Reginald, please. By the end of this summation, I will prove that not only is one of you dishonest, but also capable of murder.
Good heavens!
Fantastic.
Was it?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Well, you can tell me later on.
Oh.
Write it in the comments. But it's not just Wadsworth that has some great lines here. Madeline Kahn is on fire here. So first of all, there's the trio of lines where she says that her husband had threatened to kill her in public.
He had threatened to kill me in public. Why would he want to kill you in public?
I think she meant he threatened in public to kill her.
Oh.
And then saying that it was a matter of life and death. Now that he's dead, I can live.
Your first husband also disappeared.
But that was his job. He was an illusionist.
But he never came back. Well, he wasn't a very good illusionist. Just, yeah, very, very good. But the big reveal in this moment, on top of all of those other reveals, is that Mr. Body is, of course, the one who is blackmailing them.
Lightning crash.
Yes. But this is probably my least favorite moment in the whole film.
Why?
Where Mr. Body just starts attacking them in this really weird slapsticky, like poking them between the eye and being like pulling their suspended. He's
in a different movie.
It's weird. It's really weird, and it doesn't land for me.
Okay.
At all. You liked it?
I just thought it was a bit silly, but I was still trying to work out, I guess, tonally, like what this film was about, and it was during a lot of these points, I was like, oh, I think I've got it. I don't got it. I don't got it at all.
Yeah, I would say.
More like Clue don't.
Nice.
Here we go.
I would say for the most part, the tone remains fairly consistent. Like it is
Except when Mr. Body's on the screen.
Well, but this is the thing. Like the movie's silly, so.
But he's too silly.
It's a different kind of silly.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it has that sophistication anymore when something like this happens.
No, he's no Wadsworth, that's for sure.
He's no Wadsworth. No.
No Waddlesworth.
He doesn't. Oh. It's a shame.
Yeah.
So Wadsworth announces that he has already called the police.
Yep.
He's got a vet in the other room recording the conversation. He's got a stack of evidence they can get him. But Mr. Body's not having a bar of that. And he, knowing that most of this was probably going to come out tonight, hands everyone lovely packages.
Yes, and what are in those packages?
All these items that you see in front of you.
These are from the movie.
They are. This
is
legitimate
the real
props.
lead pipe.
The real lead pipe.
From Clue.
This is... So, funny story about this one. I couldn't find a candlestick. I had a candelabra, but not a candlestick. And Miss RB was like, no, we've got plenty of candlesticks. What she meant by that was literal stick candles.
Yes.
Not the
Candles in
same
the shape
thing,
of
but
sticks.
I thought we put it in there just as a token to her.
Those could be used in a Home Alone.
That's true.
When Buzz is playing the drums behind Macaulay Culkin.
Christmas tree, my Christmas tree, lit up like... Oh!
There you go.
Look, I did the best with what I had access to.
I
mate.
think you've done incredibly well. I think it's set design. I mean, we're back on video for the first time in a couple of months, I think.
Yeah.
And you've gone hard, and I like it. That's good.
you.
This is
I
good.
went as hard as that lead pipe. Pretty hard. So, once they open the items, Mr. Body suggests that if he was to get arrested, then he would reveal all of their secrets.
Exactly.
So what they could do as an alternative is he can switch out the old lights and then they can take out Wadsworth and they can all just walk on out of there. So click goes the
Dynamite.
switch, boys. Click, click, click. And no good? You love Round the Twist.
I do love Round the Twist.
The exclusive time that song appears.
Yeah, click on Shears, which everyone knows from that.
From Round the Twist.
Season 2, episode 7.
It's actually season 1.
Click goes the shears, boys, click, click, click. Wide is his bow and his hands move quick.
I'll find it and I'll put it in here. But
Just the text of what
what it is. No way.
just
I can
to
cover
prove
my
it
nose.
wrong. That's fine.
See? I told you it was that episode.
All right, Mr. Brown, and I was wrong. But the lights are off. Thankfully, ours is still on at the moment. But
only just.
They might turn off.
Not in here, they're not.
This is true. But lights go off. A bang and a crash.
And a scream.
And a scream. And then the lights go back on. And it's not Waddlesworth who's hit the deck.
No. But Mr. Body.
Mr. Body.
Mr. Body's body is lying on the ground.
Yeah, they did let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies
true.
hit the floor.
Nice. And Mr. Green says the first of many, I didn't do it.
Constantly.
8 times, I believe it was, in my
Damn.
final count.
Nice. I'm glad you were keeping count.
Yeah, because it's such an important detail.
I was thinking, I was like, did I miss something that I was like...
It's better that I just say now rather than bring it up every time he said it. Gotta condense those fun facts. But Mrs. White, at this point, she dramatically throws her hat. And is like, well, one of us must have killed him. She's giving it her everything. I love it. I love it. Because he doesn't have any visible wounds or bullet holes or anything like that.
Well, because I think, he did get shot. And it's like, who shot him? And I was like,
nobody. There's no body.
There's a bullet there's a bullet hole in the wall.
Mm-hmm. So they speculate that he may have been poisoned instead, just as Mrs. Peacock has taken a sip of her drink, and she's screaming.
She's doing the most.
She is doing the most.
She's peacocking.
She is peacocking.
Mrs. Peacock, it's all right. It's all right. You don't know anything. Sit down, Mrs. I had to stop her from screaming.
She doesn't get slapped in the face.
I was just going to gloss over the old Mr. Green smacking her in the face.
Yeah, I'm just like, whoa, okay. Yeah,
it's true. And then later on,
I do it again.
Does it.
She screams. Mr. Green.
I had to stop her screaming.
Caught me really off guard. I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Mr. Green. This whole just sort of chaos that's happening. And then, Vet's screaming, and they go, and they're trying to break in there. And
she drank that cognac. Do you like her accent?
I was listening.
But why were you screaming in here all by yourself?
Because I am frightened. Me too. I also drink the cognac.
Yours or the one in the movie?
Oh, I think they were much of a muchness. The cognac?
You be the judge.
You be the judge.
You be the judge.
Whodunnit better? It was a much sought after role, actually. So I think her accent got her over the line, because I think Madonna wanted to play Yvette.
Was?
Dead set. I looked it up.
Dead set.
But she ended up turning up to the audition in the full maid outfit, and apparently that...
Madonna?
No.
And they were like, no, you can go home, Madonna.
It's pretty funny.
Yes.
Who plays the lead actress in Blade Runner?
I know exactly what you're talking about, but...
It's like when she turned up to be Catwoman for Batman.
Oh, really?
And they were like, go away. We don't want you here. She was in full cat uniform.
Tell you how Tim Burton was feeling? Furious.
Nice. Furious.
See? Better when I say it. That's fine.
Very, very good. Yeah, well, this is the thing. I'm not appreciated in my lifetime. But,
You're appreciated the week after.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Just that 1 week delay. Yes.
But when they go in to check on Yvette, Mrs. Peacock is notably absent.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, notably is questionable. Did you notice?
No.
Good. This is what I want to talk about, because it happens a few times, and I'll kind of mention it as we go. But I think they do a really good job of trading off who isn't there for a scene. And because it's such a large group and you're watching the film, you don't really track, who's here, who's not here.
No, you don't like pause and be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
100%. And it's chaotic, and they use a lot of close-up shots, so you don't necessarily see everyone in the shot anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, she's not here. That's kind of cool. And so they all go back into the study, and Wadsworth reveals that it was in fact him who sent the letters. So he used to be Mr. Body's butler, but he was also, his wife was also being blackmailed by Mr. Body because she was friends with socialists.
Yeah, the disdain that was like she
when
was
he
friends.
reveals it, socialists. And
like,
everyone's like, and we all make mistakes.
Socialists. school. Well, we all make mistakes.
It's so good.
Thoroughly un-American.
I love that too. Wadsworth's wife, very sad, took her own life because it became all too much for them being a butler and a maid for free for Mr. Body because they didn't have enough money to pay off the blackmail.
Yep.
And so Wadsworth has set up this entire evening to be able to get him arrested, a little bit of revenge in that regard, but also so that he and the other guests can come out from underneath his thumb. But it's all gone awry now.
Oh yeah, because he's not he might struggle to get arrested.
Yeah, wow. That's very true. But I like that after he explains it all, Professor Plum goes, "Oh, so everything is explained." And then they cut to a wide shot and there's still an unexplained dead body on the ground. Essentially, they have to solve who killed Mr. Body before the cops arrive.
Yep.
So it's a neat little narrative, but I like it.
That's good. It creates some time pressures and stakes, and it's like, okay, we've got, and they keep sort of going back to like the cops are going to arrive in such and such minutes.
Yes.
So it kind of feels like you're playing the game. The stopwatch is on.
Yeah,
and stuff like
exactly.
That, so,
yeah, you got to solve it before it's too late.
Almost like an escape room or something like that.
A little bit like that, yeah. Or a non-escape room because they can't get out.
No, they can't. Because they're dogs.
That's it, because of the ever-changing dog breeds.
The dogs.
So they realize the cook is still in the house, and they run through the whole kitchen. And we get a little bit of a glimpse of what it's going to be like later on when they're running back and forth. That whimsical music starts. The cook! They're lifting their knees high as they run down the hallway. Very, very good. But the cook isn't there. They wander in, open the freezer, and then she falls out into Mr. Green's arms with a dagger in her back.
I daggered you on the dance floor. Just bounce, 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 bounce. Now all the ladies saying bounce, 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 bounce.
Never watched Parks and Rec. That's a TV show.
That's true. You don't watch TV shows. I always forget. But again, something I noticed in this scene, at various times, Miss Peacock, Professor Plum, and Yvette are absent throughout this scene. So Yvette's not there the whole time, but Peacock and Plum kind of are not there at the beginning and then filter in. And again, it's something that's really, really clever and done kind of throughout the film periodically. It works because they keep changing location as well. So it's harder to be able to keep track of where people are supposed to be.
Yeah, like where, I guess, like, because a lot of this, the same in, when they go back to certain environments, it's shot kind of similar. So then you're expecting almost like, okay, cool, so characters should be filling up this space or whatever it is.
100%.
Which I do like the fact that they kind of change it up a bit. So.
Well, and also in the game, you are constantly moving. You have to go to different rooms to find out information. And so it really is mirroring the circumstances of that, jumping around. And even they're like, I just as they move through the house, you can kind of picture, they do kind of look like tokens just bobbing their way through.
That's true. That's a good point. Good comparison.
But yeah, it's good fun. I love how quickly they get desensitized to the idea of dead bodies. Like they move the cook back and just drop her on the floor when Mr. Body's missing. Just like right on her face.
Put them next to the other ones and just be like, bang, drop them.
So good. But he's not there.
Mr. Body's body, it's gone.
He might not be dead.
Yeah, and I love that as soon as they're like, he's not here, Mr. Green goes, he must have killed the cook. And the reason I found that so funny, because that is genuinely something that could potentially happen in the game where you go, I haven't found out enough information. People are going for a guess. I'll give it a whirl, and you wing it based on a random kind of suspicion.
And I look at him as just like,
it's like, well, why would he? How did he?
How does that work?
And then instantly he's like, no, that's no good. It's no good.
Oh, I wasted my turn. That's fun.
Yeah. So Miss Peacock asks if there is a little girl's room, and Yvette replies, "Oui, oui," and she goes, "Oh no, I just want to powder my nose."
Good stuff.
Gag. Good gag. But when she does go to the little girl's room, she finds Mr. Body very much dead this time.
Well, he's certainly dead now. Why would anyone want to kill him twice?
Seems so unnecessary.
Well, that's what we call overkill.
Miss Peacock, she's feeling a little woozy. So she goes to faint.
Woozy, man.
And Wadsworth goes, I'll catch her. And then she just slips between his arms. And it's not even, the fall is very funny, but it's the fact that he goes, sorry, afterwards.
Sorry, cancer! I'll catch him. Fall into my arms. Sorry.
At this point, they're like, you know what? Let's do the smart thing. We'll lock up all the weapons. But they only lock up the weapons that are yet to be used. They're like, what? No one's going to use the candlestick and the dagger again.
You can't reuse them. They've only got like a 1 point selection.
One and done. That's what they say.
One and done, I always say. I said that once.
And we get a ring at the old door, or a knock at the door.
Who would it be?
It'd be the motorist.
A motorist.
So a guy has broken down outside the old mansion. He wants to use their phone. And I find it really funny because later on, like while he's talking on the phone, he's like, and it's the strangest thing. This person that I know is here, but they have been invited. So it shouldn't be that strange that there's one person that he knows that's at this party.
Nah, he might just be a bit of a silly Billy.
He is a bit of a silly Billy. Not as much of a silly Billy as old Ving. It's only glass.
It's only glass.
Oh dear. But yeah, he wants to use the phone, and so Wadsworth shows him to the lounge and then locks him in there. As they're going back into the library to figure out what they're going to do next, Colonel Mustard ducks his head into the study and goes, just checking. And Miss Peacock goes, everything okay? Yep, 2 dead bodies. Everything's good.
Just 2. No more. No less.
Oh, so funny. So they go into the library, and Mustard asks Wadsworth if he's right in thinking nobody is in the house. And then he goes, no. So there isn't anybody in the house? No, I meant no when I said yes. No meaning yes.
Yeah.
That's a funny line. It goes on for a while, but the best part, once again, is Tim Curry just adding an extra yes to the end of it. It doesn't make any sense. Like, the way that he's gone on and on and on and on and on, and then you just hear Tim Curry go, yes, in the background.
Wadsworth, am I right in thinking there is nobody else in this house?
No.
Then there is someone else in this house.
No, sorry. I said no meaning yes.
No meaning yes? Look, I want a straight answer. Is there someone else, or isn't there? Yes or no?
No.
No, there is, or no, there isn't?
Yes.
So they decide to split up. And they're all kind of pairing off. And there's some fun moments in this, but it's really just filling time at this stage.
Is
this where you started to find it gets a little tedious?
It kind of lost me a little bit here.
I don't mind it, but I noticed because like I was taking fairly diligent notes about plot as I was going through. And at this point I was like, there's actually not a whole lot to say. Like there were some fun moments, but it's not hugely useful in driving the plot forward. It just kind of establishes no one else is in the house.
After sort of, the motorist's killed while he's on the phone, and then you start to get these other characters who come in and they also get killed too.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So the benefit of having them split up is that when things start to go wrong, it's like they don't need to be accountable of where other people are. It's an avenue for them to be able to break off and do more murders.
Yes.
Well, what are you afraid of? A fate worse than death?
No, just death. Isn't that enough?
They start to get a little bit spooked, and you even see Wadsworth like in a room by himself in the dark when all like the power goes out, and he's like, "If anybody's in here, just look out!"
And he's like, "Here, another door," and then just turns on the shower.
Yeah,
this is where it all starts going off the rails.
It does. So you never see the murders from that point onwards, but you kind of see it from a POV shot. Some sort of unknown person has burnt the evidence. They unlock the weapons cabinet, sneak through the secret passage, bop the old motorist on the head with the wrench. The music is really eerie during that. And even though the film is so silly, this scene does creep you out.
Yeah, it gets into like horror movie sort of slasher territory.
It kind of reminded me of the soundtrack from the dream sequence in Vertigo.
Okay.
I'll see if I can put like some clips in so that you can see them side by side. But
the funny thing is, there's a whole group of people here having some sort of party.
Obviously, then Mustard and Scarlet go into the lounge, see the dead motorists, and they're screaming out. But they're locked in there then because they use the secret passage to get in. And so they all come racing down. Wadsworth tries to like open the door, but break the door down? What are you kidding me? It's made out of hand-carved mahogany. It's a callback.
It's a little bit of a callback for a few weeks ago.
A little bit of a callback.
Big groovy. But yeah, really struggles to go through the door. Basically, bounces straight off like a ping pong ball.
So what does Yvette do?
What does Yvette do? I can't remember.
She goes, runs to the cabinet, fetches the old revolver.
Oh yeah, and then starts blasting holes in it.
Shoots one in the chandelier, one in the door, or two in the door. Two in the door. Later on, it's 1 + 2 + 2 + 1.
Quick maths.
We can never remember, but through the door, and also grazes Colonel Mustard's arm in the process. And yeah, it's pretty funny. Like I like this kind of slapstick because you got people like tripping over and like just missing bullets.
It's getting really silly. I think this is part of where sort of I probably started to get back a little bit into the film.
Nice.
Which is a good time. But yeah, so power comes back on.
Chandelier falls down.
Yeah, which. That running gag's pretty good.
It's so good. Like, how many chandeliers do they have in that main space?
Too many.
Too many. Well, too many at least. But Mustard goes, I can't take any more scares. Then Forte's like, oh, like clutching at his chest. So good. But yeah, as you said, we get more strangers. A passing cop comes by after seeing the motorist's abandoned car.
And then he dead too.
Yeah, because he also says he needs to use the phone. But then Wadsworth gets a call from J. Edgar Hoover. It's like, why is J. Edgar Hoover on your phone? Well, he's on everybody else's. Why shouldn't he be on mine?
Good call.
It is a quality gag. So J. Edgar Hoover, obviously head of the FBI at the time, and... bit controversial. He had some controversial means of finding out information, including wiretapping a lot of people's phones without them knowing.
Yeah, this is all sort of very much at like the height of sort of communist panic.
But as we know, communism is just a red herring.
It is. That's what they say.
That is what they say. And the cop obviously can see because they're all acting very suspicious. He's like, you all seem very anxious about something. He's like, it's the chandelier. It fell down. Almost killed us. Right this way.
This is the way to the phone. But this is also the way to death. Because then the phone is... Calls cut off with this movie brought...
Very realistic lead pipe.
And then gets a bonk on the head. Sorry.
That's all right. I genuinely thought you were going to. I didn't know how much you were going to commit to the bit.
Not that much.
Yeah, that's fair. What do you prefer in the film? Do you like the eerie kind of murder type stuff like this, the old bonk on the head, or do you prefer the comedic interludes? Like when the cops like looking around and they're pretending it's a Weekend at Bernie's type moment with the dead bodies.
It's pretty funny.
It's quite good.
I think that after I sort of started to settle into the movie and understand what kind of tone they were going for and sort of balancing between the two, I like the sort of light and shade.
Yep.
That this movie provides. But sometimes it's like the death scenes and stuff really like, oh, okay. And then it's like, oh, it's building, and then it goes. Because then after the cop dies, just the doorbell rings.
Yes. And like it's quick. It's really, really quick. And I think by changing the tone around so often, I think it makes it feel like it's even faster.
Yeah.
I prefer, as opposed to like the actual them acting drunk, I prefer Wadsworth like afterwards thinking that he's seen something he shouldn't have, and he's like, oh, there's nothing illegal about this, it's a free country, and he's like, I didn't know it was that free. Like those kinds of moments are my favorite, like just the witty lines. But when he gets bonked on the head, it's actually a triple homicide. We get bonked on the head, Yvette being strangled.
She did,
and that whisper, that's creepy.
Shut the door. Recognize you.
That's a really, really creepy whisper and a good way of kind of disguising. Could be a guy, could be a girl. You're not 100% sure.
Keeping it ambiguous.
But they're on a roll, and they also end up killing the singing telegram girl that comes by.
Comes out of nowhere. It's like, bang, you're dead.
It's very, very funny.
This is when they're trying to work out. Wadsworth is like, okay, well...
Immediately, he's like, well, I know who did it.
Let's
gather round.
And they follow.
They do follow.
They do.
But they don't the entire time. They can see, oh, he's going to come back. We'll just wait here. Like there's moments where they just let him go off
effort.
And then come back.
And it's quite funny.
It's great.
He's just pinging around the rooms.
It's really, really good. And he has a lot to do here because he basically retells the entire narrative as we've seen it as a one-man show. Like he goes in and he sits down. He's like, sits in the next chair.
So I'd watch that.
Yeah,
Just a short version of like just Tim Curry doing this.
We did watch it, but he's got a lot of ground to make up because we've had 6 victims killed with 6 different weapons in 6 different rooms. So
hey, that's the plot of Cluedo.
Oh my god, it is. I do like to when they're like 6 murders. This is getting serious. It's like 1 murder, fine, all good, but
Even
6.
5 was fine.
It's getting out of control.
Just that extra 1.
It's 1 too many. 1 too many. But the parts where he is running around, there's like the whimsical tune, he's kicking his knees up, he's running to all the locations.
Yes.
But he's also like falling on the ground, playing dead, popping back up.
It's like, oh, he's dead. Nope, he's still alive.
He is filled with so much energy. I was in the hall. I know because I was there.
And like with the poison and stuff and the scream, it's just like, no!
Yeah, he's like pretending to be her and then he does the slap. Yeah. I also like how he uses the secret passage while they run from room to room. And then he's just like in the fridge.
He's like, come on, guys.
Come on, you know by now.
Play along.
So he deduces that Mr. Body must have been playing dead earlier, knowing that he had then become the target. And he asks who wasn't here when they all went to check on Yvette. Do you remember who wasn't there? I said it earlier in the pod.
Did you? And who was it?
It was old Mrs. Peacock.
Mrs. Peacock.
Mrs. Peacock.
Yes.
He reveals that the cook, Yvette, motorist, cop, and singing telegram were all of Body's accomplices. So they were the means with which he was able to get his information to then blackmail everybody else. So while they may not have known everyone there, they were linked to at least one of those accomplices.
Yep, and they've colluded together.
And so Wadsworth is still acting out the entire night, like super speeds. He turns off the power again and then turns it back on. And like Mr. Green, he's like, oh, sorry to scare you. And Mr. Green's like, it's a bit late for that. But then it cuts to Miss White and she just goes, ah. It's the funniest laugh.
Sorry, didn't mean to frighten you. You're a bit late for that. Hate when he does that.
Classic.
It's very, very good. So he explains how Yvette must have killed the cook and Mr. Body while they were preoccupied, and that she did so under Scarlett's instructions. So basically, she instructed Yvette to kill the cook, and then she killed all the other accomplices, including Yvette.
But why?
Why did she do it? I know what you're thinking. You think it was communism, but I assure you, communism was just a red herring, Mr. Hoyland.
It's capitalism.
Exactly. She just did it for money. She was going to then take over as the one blackmailing everybody.
Then they're trying to like clarify what's going on, and I think Professor Plum's like, there's one thing I don't understand, and then Mustard's next to him is like, one?
Yeah. Because Mustard's stupid. That's his character trait. So she's got the gun because obviously she shot the singing telegram person, and she's holding everyone at gunpoint, but Wadsworth's like, no. You're out of bullets.
I've got one thing over you, is that I can do maths.
Exactly, but he can't. Because he says 1 + 2 + 2 + 1, but it was actually 1 + 2 + 1 + 1. So there is a bullet left. But
you said that pretty quick too. Nice one.
Thanks, man. He distracts her long enough for the FBI to burst in.
Led by the guy who wanted to talk about the kingdom of heaven.
He's like a Jehovah's Witness or something.
But no, he works for the FBI.
He's
the chief.
And we get a hilarious reference to Gone with the Wind here.
Frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a damn.
So good. So good. And then he accidentally shoots the gun off to prove that it doesn't have a bullet in it.
And then the
chandelier
freeze frame.
falls, and there's a freeze frame of Mustard being like scared to death.
And this is the end of the movie.
That's it. Gotcha. No, but to be fair, it was the end of the movie for some moviegoers when this was first released in cinemas. So, as we now know, there are 3 separate endings to this movie, and we get to enjoy all 3.
I wish I didn't know this before I was watching the movie, so it was more of a
did?
surprise. Unfortunately, I found out. I was doing some research.
No.
Gross
No.
research.
And thankfully so, because I think this first one is a little bit lackluster.
It does. It
And-
kind of ends very, very quickly.
Well, it wasn't a very successful box office when it came out.
No, it's not. It's a
And-
bit of a cult classic now.
Probably partly because some people saw the lackluster ending to
And they're
it.
like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Ugh, gross.
I thought it was
One ending of a
communism.
movie. I wanted 7.
7. Well, there was supposed to be a 4th, but
Really?
they kept it to 3. They kept it to 3.
Thank goodness.
So it goes back to when Wadsworth turns the light back on. This time he accuses Miss Peacock. She was missing when the cook was murdered, which is true. I flagged it myself.
You double checked. You did your research.
Yes,
your
and
homework.
once again, communism was just a red herring. She did it to keep her secret safe.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty basic, but that's all right.
Pretty basic way for her to leave as well.
Oh, I love this. So Wadsworth basically says he doesn't care that she's killed. He's like, oh, look, I don't condone murder, but I mean, I don't condone blackmail either, so it's fine. No one cares. Your secret's safe. You just wander out. We'll be all good. In fact, he goes, you've done us all a service, for she's a jolly good lassie. And they all start singing together. It's so, so good. Madeline Kahn comes in with like the echo in the background.
Which nobody can deny, which nobody can deny, which nobody can deny, for she's a jolly good fellow.
I'm just like,
really, really funny.
What is happening? I felt like I was watching like the funeral scene in Schitt's Creek.
Oh, Danny boy.
What is happening? Which
I
is my
like it.
note. What?
I don't mind this ending. I probably would have been happy with this ending if I'd seen it in cinemas.
So your ending is your favorite
No,
number 2?
it's not. It's not.
Okay, good.
We'll get to it.
So-
but she leaves, goes out the front, and then that same Jehovah's Witness FBI guy is there
Yeah.
and arrests her because Wadsworth was actually working for the FBI. That's why he got a phone call from J. Edgar Hoover
Because they
earlier.
work together.
Yeah, and he goes, like the Mounties, we always get our man. Mr. Green goes,
Mrs. Peacock was a man?
he gets slapped twice.
Bang, bang.
It's so, so funny. And then he just goes, anyone care for dessert? Freeze frame.
And I'm like, oh, geez, that's a pretty crazy ending of the movie. Good thing we found. Oh, no.
There's one more.
One more.
But I do like that they announced this is how it really happens. The other two were like, oh, this could have been it. But this is the one that they definitively say, no, this one makes the most sense. And it does. It clearly makes the most sense. All of the things I said about characters missing early on tracks with this final summation that they do.
Yep.
But it's also just the most interesting one.
I think
the
so.
idea of each of them killing one person.
Because they're all bad.
Exactly.
They all suck.
And we said that. They do all suck. Also, this is the best ending because this is the one where he is re-energized again and runs up the stairs with Miss White, and then she just like falls onto the stairs and he leaves her behind.
It's like, no, I've got...
so good.
I need to do... I need to tell everyone what's going on. I'm leaving you behind.
It's one of my favorite Miss White moments, but it's followed very closely by my actual favorite.
I hated her so much. Flames on the side of my face.
Flames in the side of my face. Building, breathing, heaving.
Sound like Mickey Mouse.
Sorry, that's how she said it.
Breathing, heaving breaths. Heaving.
But while we were in the billiard room,
She's like finding the words for it and she just can't get it out and heaving. And then Wadsworth just like, anyway, and cuts her off and keeps going. Completely improvised by her, that moment.
Very, very good.
It's so good. I think it's one of the most memorable moments from the film.
It's getting into like how much this film sort of descends into chaos. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, perfect. This is fine.
Well, you just expect everyone to articulate themselves so well at this point in the film.
Yeah.
And so the fact that she just can't get
She just
anything
lost
out.
the plot. And then Tim Curry basically does a Mr. Boylan on the podcast and goes, anyway.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. Anyway.
When he gets to Scarlett, she's just so impressed. He's like, true or false? And she's like, true. Who are you? She like loves
cooking.
that he's got it right. And so it gets to the end, and the only person he hasn't accused yet is Green. And so they're like, well, by process of elimination, that must mean Green killed the last person, killed the singing telegram girl. But he's like, I didn't do it once again. And it's because old Wadsworth did it. Once again, communism was just a red herring, and Wadsworth turns out to be the real Mr. Body.
Crazy.
What a twist! So Mr. Body was just his butler standing in for him, and he has gotten everyone there. I'm not sure if you actually break down the plot, if it does make all that much sense.
Sometimes it's good to not break it all down.
100%, yeah. because none of them knew who he was. So if he hadn't invited them there, he could have continued to go on. But he's very pleased because now he doesn't have to pay off any of his accomplices. No loose ends. And he's like, well, let's wrap this all up and head on out. And so he goes to leave, but old Greenie, he is concealing a weapon. It's weird that it hasn't come out prior to this, but again, let's not poke holes in this very, very silly film. And it turns out he was part of the FBI, and that call from J. Edgar Hoover was actually for him.
Yep, and we get a really elite death scene from Tim Curry.
Oh, good shot. Oh, very good.
The way he like looks at, he almost like turns to look. It's like he's double checking that people are seeing that he's dying. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I love it.
So good. Yeah, the slide down. He's like,
and then dies.
Really nice.
And then we as you said, Green's an FBI agent.
Yeah, he's like, I told you I didn't do it. And then they all come in. They're like, all right, who done it? It's like, they all did. But being part of the FBI isn't the only thing he was concealing. Turns out he's not a homosexual either because he announces, I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.
Freeze frame. Credits. And I'm like, what?
So good.
What happened?
Well, no, you don't need any more than that.
That came up when I was looking at Letterboxd reviews for this film.
Yeah.
Quite often there's just that quote.
That quote, I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife, and then play Shakes, Rattle, and Roll.
I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.
I also think it's a fun credit sequence with them all printed on the cards.
I think that's cool.
That's really good.
I like that.
Yeah, like, I adore this film. I don't know if we've spoken about this before. My favorite show, Psych.
Yes, I saw this when I was looking at like the additional references and stuff. The fact that there's a crossover here.
The 100th episode of Psych is called 100 Clues. And they go to the mansion. They even get back Scarlet Plum and Mustard, all those actors.
That's so good.
Tim Curry had previously played a role in Psych, and I think originally they were going to get him into it, but maybe his health wasn't good enough for it. But that would have been just epic.
Wow.
But it's such a good episode. One of my favorite episodes because I love the movie so much. The references are great.
Gus and I are gonna go home and make love to our wives. We're not married, Sean.
And they do the alternate endings as well.
Oh, that's
and
good.
Yeah, just really, really well done. Yeah, I highly encourage you to go and check it out. If you've seen any of Psych before, you can just jump to that episode. Like once the concept is established, you can be like, cool, I'm just going to skip ahead to this fun episode.
So I might watch episodes 1, 2, and then 100.
I reckon.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. I
yeah.
might do that.
You could
There you go.
easily do that.
That's my perfect way to watch a TV show.
Yeah. But look, you can tell I adore this. I was rattling things off at the speed of Tim Curry because I didn't want to miss a single moment.
It's pretty quick.
Obviously, I said I've done a homage to it. I mentioned how I did like the accusations, but I also do the sort of summation explaining how things have happened in the very energetic way too.
Cool.
So
You thought you'd gotten away with it, but Hilda caught you, didn't she? Didn't she?
No.
So you chased her throughout the house and plunged a dagger into her. Over and over again.
I'm intrigued a little bit. I definitely could see myself playing this game a little bit more now.
Yeah.
I play a little bit more board games these days than what I used to. So,
Nice.
no, I had like I said, I wouldn't have say I'm itching to go watch this film again and add it to my top ranks. But like I said, the last sort of half an hour of the film, I feel like really sort of got me into it.
Yeah.
It's just
kicks it up a notch.
It really does. It's chaotic. The energy really lifts, I think. And there's probably bits and pieces of dialogue that I did miss because it is kind of one of those things where it just really does fly quite quickly. So you like watching this movie a few times and having some repeat viewings, I think will allow me to appreciate it even further.
But you should also read the book, like just one to kind of see what the format of it is. Because yeah, I really want to, like, I'm considering looking up where to get them online and like just
Get on
ordering
eBay
a bunch.
and
Just a bit of nostalgia, but also just being like, I wonder how easy these would be to solve now.
I really like the idea of sort of like interactive books like that. I was talking to you about this, I think, last week. That I really liked I'm a big fan of Goosebumps as a book series, but the choose your own adventure Goosebumps weird. I'd be, because you're talking about sort of writing different things down, and I'd be writing down the different pages to make sure I'm getting to the right place and surviving. But that's kind of a cool thing to happen. So I'm okay dying, but I want to see what's happening on that page. I don't do that anymore with books.
No.
Yeah,
I don't even read them.
No, those or just books in general?
Books.
Just yuck.
Yuck.
That's how a lot of
Literature.
people feel about books. So that's why we're a podcast about movies.
That's it.
Because movies are better, and that's a fact.
Definitive fact.
Speaking of talking about movies, do you want to talk about 5 of our favourite ones?
Yeah. But did want to just say a big thank you for the selection today. It was a poll vote in the end, so those who did select it, absolute winner of a choice. And thank you again to Julian for his intro to the pod today. Alrighty, let's do it. 5 favorites.
We got 5 favorites. Above all else. We got 5 favorites that we think are top shelf.
So,
5 favorites.
5 favorite whodunits. This one, you immediately said when I suggested it as an idea, well, that's going to be tricky. And
can confirm.
Tricky it was. You were like, are you sure we can't do a 25 favorites? No, simply 5 favorites.
We got 25 favorites.
But as always, I kind of set up some parameters for myself to help me to narrow it down. I tried to go for more traditional whodunit style ones, and for a lot of them, that actually meant that they were quite dated as well.
Okay.
Not all of them, but I ruled a couple out immediately because we'd talked about them recently. So obviously Clue is one of my favorite whodunits, but I think we spent enough time on Clue. A little bit too much.
Do an alternate ending of you talking about it more. That's fine.
That's it. But also the other big one that would have come up for a whodunit, one of my favorite whodunits, but also one of my favorite films of all time, and that is Scream. But I did talk about Scream on my favorites for parodies a few weeks back, so I'll put it aside a little bit, and I'll put some others in the spotlight for today.
Not in my movie.
I was probably in the same boat where it was, like I said, wanted to get to 25. But I had quite a few honourable mentions. I probably wasn't as strict with my rules about sort of the whodunit and the murder mysteries, because I basically put my main parameter or I guess characteristic I was looking for in these films was, did someone die, or were they looking for someone who maybe has killed someone?
Sometimes it's not a whodunit. Sometimes it's a how done it.
Or they done it.
When done it.
Where done it.
What done it. Murder, usually.
I mean, it's in the name. I might rattle off just a couple of my honourable mentions.
Go for it.
The first of those was The Batman.
The Batman.
The Batman.
With Robert Battenbat.
I do really like this film a lot. I need to watch it a second time as well. I haven't seen it since I've seen it in the cinemas.
Really? Oh, I bought it on Blu-ray as soon as it was out.
I
loved it.
I really like Batman when he's a detective, which not a lot of the films do. And this one did it. And it felt like a David Fincher film, but in Gotham City. And
yeah, that's true.
I really enjoyed that. I'll be talking about a David Fincher film in a little bit.
But I see why it didn't make the cut. It's less of a whodunit.
Yeah, well, because we kind of know who done it.
The Riddler done it.
Spoilies. Other ones that I had on here, Mississippi Burning, a really powerful and strong film, a film I watched actually when I was a high school student.
Oh, yeah.
And was a lot for a 15-year-old to watch.
Yeah. It's still a lot now.
Yeah, so, but it's something that I really like the performances, that film with Willem Dafoe and Gene Hackman. Again, it's probably, it is sort of a bit of a whodunit, but we kind of know who's done it. Zodiac as well, really fantastic film. Sherlock Holmes, we've talked about sort of our enjoyment of the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes films and our less enjoyment of other Guy Ritchie films. Mystic River.
Oh, is that my daughter in there? Oh, such a good scene.
Really full-on film again, but like just terrific acting performances
Another
for
thing
days.
with Psych parodies.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I gotta watch Psych, really.
There's a food truck that goes wrong, and they're like, "Is that Maurizio in there?"
Not the macho taco. Is that Maurizio? Mauricio in there, Gus? Is that Mauricio in there?
Do not go all Sean Penn and Mr. River on me.
Is that the last of the secret taco sauce in there? Is that the last of his secret tacos? Ow, ow, time out. That hurts.
That's really good.
It's very good.
I appreciate that. Also have Basic Instinct and The Fugitive, which just missed out. So close.
It was almost on my list too. But a Harry baby. We love it. We do it for wits.
We do love Harry Ford. But, you know, it did miss the list, and I don't care.
I don't care. Nice.
Which is probably my most used Simpsons quote.
It's so good. I don't care.
I'm telling you, I didn't do anything.
I don't care.
Anyway, let's talk about the ones that are on the list. Do you want to kick us off?
All right. I'm going to kick things off in 1963. Not going to be a surprise to hear this one.
We're going back to 1963.
We are. I have mentioned it a bunch of times before on the pod, but I haven't explained it in excruciating detail like some of the other ones that I omitted from my list. So, Charade.
Okay.
Gotta love me a bit of Charade. So, it came up when I was talking North by Northwest. It's my favorite Cary Grant film. It's one of my favorite thrillers of all time. And I think the reason it works so well is it does balance a bit of comedy and wit with that idea of a whodunit. And some of the time you're like, oh, that's the person that did it. And then you're like, oh, maybe not. And so it doesn't kind of take the form of a traditional whodunit, and you really have yourself like questioning good characters, bad characters, every character really in it. And so you never completely feel safe. And anytime you do for a moment, they remind you, nah, you shouldn't, because something else happens that kind of flips everything on its head. So that is really, really good. But also I just love the romantic repartee between Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant. Like, they are so charismatic to watch.
Do we know each other?
Why do you think we're going to?
I don't know. How would I know?
Because I already know an awful lot of people, and until one of them dies, I couldn't possibly meet anyone else.
Well, if anyone goes on the critical list, let me know.
But wasn't it Shakespeare who said when strangers do meet in far-off lands, they should ere long see each other again?
Shakespeare never said that.
How do you know?
It's terrible. You just made it up.
Oh, well, it sounds right. You going to call me?
It's everything I need from a film. So one of my absolute favorites, Charade.
Nice. I'm going to start my list with, it's called Wind River.
Okay.
It's directed by Taylor Sheridan, who had written Hell or High Water, which got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. He'd also written Sicario.
Hell or High Water.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice
now
callback.
I know it.
Now you oh dear. And also written Sicario as well. So written some like good sort of pretty tense films. This one is set on an American Indian like reservation in Wyoming. It stars Jeremy Renner, who is a U.S. fish and wildlife tracker, who basically finds a body of a young girl, and it turns out that she's been sexually assaulted and murdered.
Right.
And then the FBI send Elizabeth Olsen there. So it's a nice little Marvel reunion in 2017.
I haven't heard of this.
No. So, and the main reason it was made was because, and they put this sort of message at the end of the film as well, is that, like basically in America, they track all groups of like missing persons except those of like American Indians. So a lot of it was around the fact that in real life, a lot of this was happening to Native Americans. It's a really tense film. I think the performances from the two leads are quite tremendous because Lizzie Olsen is kind of like this FBI agent from the city who doesn't really know sort of the surrounds. Jeremy Renner's really good in it. Wyoming looks beautiful. Yeah, it's full on. There's some really good action. The characters are really well developed, and yeah, it's a gorgeous film. So I really highly recommend Wind River.
Nice. Next on my list, I'm just going in release order.
Yes.
So we go from 63 to 73 with The Last of Shiela.
Okay.
So this is one that you will not find on a streaming service.
I've never heard of this film.
I did a special Blu-ray order, one of those ones where it wasn't in the region and you very cautiously put it in the player and cross your fingers and it works.
It sounded like me last week with Lake Mungo.
It works on my player, by the way. Alrighty, so The Last of Shiela is such a good murder mystery, and I think I almost like it more because not many people have seen it. So like I really like recommending it to people, but it's a hard one to recommend because they have no access to it. It's got really good cast. So it's got James Mason in it. It's got Raquel Welch in it. It's got James Coburn, who's also in Charade. So a bit of a theme there.
Nice.
But essentially James Coburn invites a bunch of friends on a holiday like getaway after one of their friends has passed away. And then he kind of makes a bit of like a sick game out of it. He does like a murder mystery and they have to do puzzles each night to kind of find out their secret.
That's cool.
But they're real secrets that they are keeping from people. And so they start to get really suspicious. And then as a result, things descend into madness. But it's really, really cool. It's kind of like an escape room long before there were escape rooms. Like each night he's doing a scavenger hunt type themed event, and it just builds and builds, and it's really eerie. The cast is great.
That's good.
It's just it's a great film.
That sounds like a fun time. I'm
highly recommend. And now that we both know that we can play these region-free Blu-rays, I'll be able to bring it in for you, mate.
That sounds like a good call. Okay, my next one, a bit of a tonal shift from Wind River, and that's The Nice Guys, the Shane Black film starring Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling.
I actually need to revisit it. I've only seen it the once.
Oh,
and
really?
I remember being a little underwhelmed by it. So I feel like that must have been the state of mind I was in because everybody raves about it.
It is kind of one of those films that like has approached. Everyone's like it's so underrated, but everyone talks about it so much. It's probably
like now it's not underrated.
Maybe it's almost overrated for some people. I don't know, clearly. So, I just have a great time with this film. I saw like a comment on one day. It was like the character in this walked so Ken could run. Ryan Gosling's playing like sort of a private investigator who's not very good at his job, and then Russell Crowe is kind of playing a bit of someone who does jobs that. Or like will beat people up essentially to like, sort of like remind them to do things or like to stay away or whatever and stuff. And then these two characters cross paths and they end up sort of getting sort of sucked into this kind of mystery of a missing girl.
Right.
And it's just so chaotic. Like some of the line delivery, Ryan Gosling like gets his like arm broken by Russell Crowe and the scream he makes.
What did Russell do to make you scream like a little girl like that? He must have done something.
I thought I screamed like a grown woman. Actually.
Okay, we'll go for that.
Thank you.
All right.
I think like probably one of my favorite comedies ever.
Yeah, right.
And I just love the setting, kind of where it takes place in the 60s. 60s? Yeah. 70s. Damn. 70s. 70s sounds right.
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
Anyway.
It has a 70s aesthetic.
Very much so.
Could be late 60s as well.
True. But yeah, it's just a really good time. I really love The Nice Guys. It's very typical sort of like Shane Black dialogue. Very
snappy.
Very
punchy.
Very snappy and punchy and funny.
Nice.
So yeah, I recommend The Nice Guys.
Awesome. Well, next up, I'm going to talk about One of My Wives is Missing.
Oh no.
Wow, you think The Last of Shiela is hard to find. This one, released 3 years later, is even harder to find.
Where do you find these movies, Mr. Brown?
This one was a tally movie.
Whoa, okay.
And I don't find it anymore. I think I had an old copy of it from maybe when it was on TV or something like that.
Recorded it or whatever.
It's a very, I still have access to that copy, but it's a very low quality version of the film. And I would love to get a high definition version of this.
Does it exist?
I don't think so. Not that I've been able to find thus far. But essentially, at the beginning of the film, a man calls the police and says, look, my wife's gone missing. He turns up to investigate, and then a woman comes back and is like, I'm here. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh.
And he's like, but this isn't my wife. And so that's the mystery, how it starts out. And
cool.
yeah, it's all very strange. You don't really know what's going on for a good part of it. But I would say a lot of these types of films can become very formulaic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one does a really good job of presenting the narrative in a way that you are not expecting and something that feels fresh and new, despite the fact that it was released in 1976.
That's cool.
Yeah. So,
how did you first come across this movie? Just
a
on
lot
TV,
of,
or?
a lot of films like this, my dad introduces me to.
Cool.
So yeah, like this list in particular, he would be very proud of. So hope he's listening right now.
Shout out to Mr. Brown's dad, the OG Mr. Brown.
The OG Mr. Brown. Well, no.
No?
There were several lines of Mr. Brown's. Or you.
It is all me. I'm going to go with one of my favourite movies of all time.
Ah!
And it's Prisoners.
Prisoners of Love, Blue Skies Above. Have you seen The Producers?
No.
You have now because I put that clip in.
But I haven't. They have.
Yeah, but you watch it. This is your number one podcast.
Who am I
You tell me it's your
kidding?
number
Who
one
am I kidding?
podcast.
I'm watching the podcast. I've got push notifications on to make sure that I'm ready for when the fifth period drops. And you can do that too. Just make sure you click the little bell icon. Nice little segue. But yeah, Prisoners, 2013, Denis Villeneuve. This is just a brilliant movie. Two dads and two families, young kids have been kidnapped. We don't know by who, which is the Whodunnit portion of this. The two dads are played by Hugh Jackman and Terrence Howard.
Yep.
There's really good acting performances in this movie, but Hugh Jackman is out of control in this movie.
I adore
quite
this
literally.
film. Yeah.
But yeah, really well shot. It looks gorgeous. You've got Jake Gyllenhaal in a very impractical, slick haircut as Detective Loki, which I don't know why he's called. No one
His name's not actually Loki.
The character's name.
His hair is Loki.
Is Loki terrible? Am I right?
Not Loki. Loki. He looks like Loki from the show Loki.
From the show Loki.
Yeah.
Or the movie Loki.
There's a movie Loki?
I mean, are we talking about the same Loki?
Yes, from Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, he's in lots of movies, but there's no Loki movie.
Yeah, but there is the Loki TV show.
There is 2 seasons of it.
Well, we've
really just gone on.
Sometimes I look down the lens of the camera and I just apologize to future me with my eyes that they have to take care of this. They have to turn this into something watchable.
So we've got Detective Loki, played by one of my faves, Jake Gyllenhaal. He's really good in this film. Paul Dano as well as kind of the potential suspect who they think has maybe taken the kids. Not sure if they have. And then the dads basically take the law into their own hands. And it's full on. But looks great. I like how the plot develops and kind of the different directions you think it's going to go in and then it doesn't. Yeah, Prisoners is awesome. Go watch it.
Nice. Next up, I mean, how can we do a whodunit list without mentioning Agatha Christie?
True. That's a good call.
This is my token Agatha Christie on the list, and it is Evil Under the Sun. And it is not one that has been remade recently. Thank goodness.
Just wait.
Yeah, I haven't really enjoyed the Kenneth Branagh Poirot's. I don't think I've been shy about that previously.
No, I remember you talking about. I haven't seen I don't have much of a history with Agatha Christie.
Right.
Both older stuff and newer stuff. So
maybe because she was dead for a long portion of your life. So you did have that romantic tryst with her though, quite a few years back.
First I've heard of it. One of my wives is missing. And it's Agatha Christie.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Nice. She actually did go missing for a period of time.
I know.
Yeah,
I wrote a movie about it.
Anyway, so Death on the Nile has been redone. That's one of my favorites, but my absolute favorite is Evil Under the Sun.
Why is it your favorite?
Made in 1982. I think it's probably the best mystery that I've seen in a movie adaptation. I do think that there's still some Agatha Christie books that I haven't seen movie versions of, or good movie versions of. Sometimes they do crummy kind of telemovie ones. But Evil Under the Sun is the best one that I think has been adapted to screen.
Cool.
Got a good cast in it.
Even in those days, she could always throw her legs up in the air higher than any of us. And wider.
Peter Ustinov as Poirot is just so great because he doesn't really care about anyone. Like, he solves the crime, but he's also pretty obnoxious, and he's just like accusing everyone, and like he has no sense of tact about his methods. He's just like, you could be a murderer, you could be a murderer.
You lost your temper? You strangled her? That is poppycock!
And then like stuffs his face with food, and then he's just
a real
like,
everyman.
Oh, I love it. I love it. He's wearing like his swimsuit that's like a onesie. He's got like a swim cap that looks like a nighty cap. Oh,
there's a lot to unpack there.
Oh my God, he's doing so much. He's doing it all. But this mystery really, really works for me. I think, obviously I've mentioned I like these mysteries when there are elements and clues along the way where you can solve them. And I think the best whodunits do that. And this one is
good call,
really, really good with that. So Evil Under the Sun, 1982. Check it out.
I will have to. This is a film that I probably suspect a lot of people have checked out before. But if I'm talking about my 5 favourite murder mysteries, I can't not talk about Seven. By David Fincher, came out in 95, and some people regard this as, sometimes their favourite movie of all time.
Yeah, see, the interesting thing about Seven for me is I've seen it, I own it on DVD, and I still haven't seen it a second time because it's such a hard watch. And like, I probably wouldn't find it as hard now, but I watched it when I was like still introducing myself to some more full-on horror films.
And it is like a horror film.
There's some pretty horrific stuff in it.
I think it's just the premise for the movie is really cool. We've got a weathered detective who's on his way out, and we've got a young detective who's on his way in, Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt respectively, trying to track down a killer who's basically, or modus operandi, is killing people and how they are related to the 7 deadly sins. And I think it's just a really cool idea for because it's a murder mystery, it's a horror, it's a serial killer film, it's really brilliant. I remember watching this just like a younger person, and I was like, well, not too young, not 15 when I watched Mississippi Burning, but certainly I probably just finished high school when I watched this. And yeah, it is pretty full on, like really good practical effects, which we know is a favorite of mine. Some really big like sort of jump scares, like the sloth one. That's like completely gets you, and I think that's one of like the best jump scares of all time. But yeah, it's just a really well acted film. Really good performances, obviously. This film's been out long enough. It came out in 95.
I still wouldn't say the big.
A bit like What's in the Box.
Yeah.
Okay. The character who plays the killer is also really good in this movie. Being really specific about how I've worded that.
In this movie, and that's it.
They acted really well.
Yes.
Detective! Yeah.
That was pretty good.
So, yeah, it's just, everyone kind of knows the ending of this film and sort of how...
I've gone to a 80s, I think it was an 80s theme party. Oh, no, 90s. 90s theme party, dressed as Brad Pitt in the final sequence.
Nice.
Carrying around a box that said Fragile on it.
You just keep sort of saying to everybody, that's awesome. Nice.
Spoilers.
Nice. But yeah, it's just a really good film. And I think one of the best examples of the murder mystery style.
Nice.
I want to talk, even though I've tried to have some like underrated and films not a lot of people talk about, that one a lot of people talk about, but it's for good reason.
That's all right. I've done 4 films no one talks about, and now I got one that everybody talks
including
about.
You.
Including me. Again, one of my favourite films. Knives Out is coming in. Finally, a more modern one to add to my list. So 2019, I adored this film. I thought it got everything right when it came to the murder mystery. All of the characters were really compelling and interesting to watch the entire time. I think the way that it tells the story out of order is really good. I think that the way that it kind of subverts your expectations early on by seemingly telling you what has happened and then having the movie play out in almost a cover-up kind of style is just such a clever way to freshen a genre that has been done to death. Excuse the pun. But I really think that for me, after feeling so betrayed by Rian Johnson's take on the Star Wars franchise,
me too,
which I have now lessened my opinion on. I'm less critical of that.
Go watch that episode in the Rival Rankings.
Exactly right. But having seen Knives Out, I was like, yeah, all right, I'll give him another chance.
All right, Ryan.
It was just everything I needed from it. And even though I think the sequel, Glass Onion, is a much lesser film.
Eat shit. Eat shit. Eat shit.
Smug smile.
Definitely eat shit.
I still think that they're both very good whodunits. I think he had a lot to live up to, with Knives Out being the first. And so as a result of that, it's very hard to match the stakes of that one. But I think that it's a very worthy sequel. So the franchise in general, really, really good.
Psyched for number 3. And
I'm super psyched.
I love that this is, like what James Bond is like. It's like, well, I'm finished doing Bond movies. I'm going to do my Foghorn Leghorn detective movies.
I love it.
And it's awesome.
What is this? CSI KFC?
I'm also keen for the third one. A very good way to bring your 5 favourites to a close. My one is from a filmmaker who we both enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a film in his catalogue that doesn't get talked about really much at all.
And what might that film be?
That film is Insomnia by Christopher Nolan.
I haven't seen Insomnia.
Okay. Good. Get around to it.
I know, because I obviously, as you said, love Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
I'm not as thrilled by some of his later editions, but yeah, I think he's got a very consistent track record. So even though there might be one or two that didn't live up to it, I think people would say that if he's making a film, it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, it's like a baseline of like, they'll have a pretty okay time with this.
Yeah, exactly. An okay time to a mind-blowingly good time. That's a nice spectrum to be on.
And it's kind of funny talking about Insomnia as a Christopher Nolan film because like it's probably one of the more streamlined, simple plots and narratives that I think he's ever done.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, it's done really well and it's got lots of different layers. So you've got Al Pacino playing a detective who goes out to Alaska to basically solve a case.
Yep.
He's working with the local law enforcement led by Hilary Swank, who's really fantastic in the film as well. You've got this additional layer of the fact because they're in the middle of the period of time in Alaska where basically there's no darkness. So.
Right.
And he's not used to that, so he can't sleep. And this kind of constant and, I guess, like decline and descent into madness and gets a little bit sort of crazy with the lack of sleep and seeing things and everything. And how that sort of impacts his ability to try to work out who has killed this young girl. And then it also works out that he's got his own sort of past that he's kind of running from a little bit and it's something that he's done. It's really hard to talk about this film and not talk about who's the person who does it. But basically, all I will say is that the actor who plays opposite Al Pacino, I mean, you look at the credits and he's there as like the second build person, shows that this actor is not just a very funny person, he's just a damn brilliant actor.
Yeah, right.
So Insomnia is really good. It's probably one of the more lean Christopher Nolan films in terms of crazy with time or anything like that. But there's enough here that a simple premise is elaborated on. It's a really nice looking film. The themes are really interesting, and the acting performances are of the toppest of notches. So
toppest of notches.
That's what they say. So I really like talking about Insomnia. I still remember watching it and being like, "Oh, this is a Nolan film. I didn't know this was a Nolan film." It came out in 2001, so this is in between Memento and Prestige. So
okay, right.
Yeah. So yeah. Go watch Insomnia. It's really great.
I will do. Nice. Good 5 favourites.
Yeah, that was a hard one to talk about, but I feel like we had some good contrasts.
Oh, yes. Shall we move on to movie mashups?
Let's do it.
They did the mash. They did the movie mash. the mash.
It's like a plot theme smash.
Maybe the mash.
It might turn out trash.
Maybe the mash.
They did the movie mash.
Oh my goodness. Oh my damn.
All right, let me get
those mashups. They're going ham.
They're going ham. Alrighty, just covering up my selection. We will take it in turns to read out pitches for existing movies with a slight twist based on the theme of the week. Now, the goal is to guess the new mashup title, which should be a play on words. Because our film this week was Clue, we are going to be simply doing a Cluedo-themed one, meaning we have 6 characters, 6 weapons, and 9 rooms for use in our mashup titles. For example, if I was describing the story of a ball player who, after being shunned for shaving points and pocketing the money, goes on a joyride and ends up in prison where he teaches the pool of inmates how to play, you might say the film was called The Longest Billiard.
Good.
Yeah, we're happy
I like
with this?
that one.
Alrighty.
We're on.
Let
Let's
us
go.
jump in. Would you like to kick us off?
Sure, I'll go for it. 2 best friends accidentally stumble across a suitcase full of cash left behind by one of the friend's customers or clients on the way to the airport. Infatuated with his client, the friends use their quick wit and psychological prowess to track down the lady and win her heart.
We've got a double up.
Yes!
Is it Plum and Dumber?
Yes!
Oh!
Straight off the bat.
Nice. Plum and Dumber. All right, look, I'll just for good measure.
Go on.
This buddy comedy follows 2 idiots on a road trip to Aspen to return a suitcase full of money. When they both end up falling for the girl they are trying to return it to, the race is on to see which one of them will be fruitful in their pursuit of her. This leads to all sorts of hijinks, including one poisoning the other with a prune juice equivalent.
Oh, jeez.
That's why we're keeping your one in. Oh, I like a double up though.
That was
I do
good.
like a double up.
Oh yeah, mashups are back and in living color. Let's go. All right.
You go for your second.
Okay, cool.
Go on.
On a Californian horse ranch, things aren't as they seem as a man and his sister get tied up looking up above their heads to something sinister in the skies. They must work together with a local textile worker to capture footage of the extraterrestrial creature and to close the loop on their struggles with capturing spectacle.
Wow, it's got to be Jordan Peele's famous movie, Rope.
He's got it!
You're unbelievable.
Oh! 2 for 2, baby! Good start. Good start. Alrighty, here we go. This Swedish horror focuses on a young boy who meets the ultimate femme fatale in the form of a vampire. But instead of inflicting pain on him, she helps him seek revenge on those who bullied him, attacking them at a swimming pool and turning the water a crimson red.
Oh, it's Let the Right...
It is?
Let the White One in?
A crimson red.
Oh, Scar, Let the Right One in?
He's done it! Oh!
That's good. Oh, that's quite good. That's quite good.
Oh dear. We have fun.
We do, sometimes. And one of those times is right now.
Right now.
A seasoned musician discovers and falls in love with a struggling muso. They escort each other up to the spotlight, with the struggling artist finding that her career and name are up in big red neon lights. This bodes well for her, but leaves her husband to battle his own rouged demons.
I've got the word. I've definitely got the word.
In this remake of a movie.
Is it the one that's been remade like a bunch of times?
Yeah.
Is it with Lady Gaga?
Lady Gaga.
I just can't remember the name of the title. Yeah.
Just like Pearl says, she wants to be a...
A Scarlet is born.
He's got it!
Oh, yeah! Good Pearl reference to help get me
I was
there.
trying.
No, it worked. It totally worked. Nice. Alrighty. We're going like one for one with the same words as well.
Yeah.
When a uniquely dressed leader of a gang of droogs is imprisoned in a British dystopia for unspeakable crimes, he volunteers for an experimental aversion therapy to rehabilitate him and make him sick at the thought of any of his previous vulgar acts. Seemingly cured, he returns to his life to find he no longer has a place in it and is tarred and feathered by those he wronged in the past.
Well, I got the movie. I'm really struggling for the reference.
Tarred and feathered.
Tarred and feathered. Like the maid? Is that what I'm going for?
No, there's another character that has an even closer association to feathers. Also, when someone is uniquely dressed.
Oh. A peacockwork orange?
It is a peacockwork orange!
You're unbelievable.
Oh!
That was a mouthful.
I think I just wrote peacockwork orange.
Okay.
I took out the
No,
that was where the mouth was.
They got me.
Oh dear. Good times.
A former assassin breaks from a 4-year coma after a jealous ex-lover attempts to kill her on her wedding day. With revenge on her mind, this former assassin sets about systematically murdering little and big figures that ruined her life and putting them into their respective holes.
Okay. Little and big.
Yeah. Sometimes we call them that when we play this.
Do we?
Yeah. Littles and bigs.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
Stripes and Sultans.
Yeah, I gotcha. It is Kill Billion.
He's got it!
You're unbelievable.
Oh! Alrighty.
Nice.
3 adults who were never given a chance to play baseball as kids make up for lost time when a billionaire funds them to start their own little league team and go up against bullies in the park who are acting like tools. After one of them becomes a hero to nerds everywhere, a spanner is thrown in the works when it is revealed he himself used to be a bully.
Is this a comedy movie with like older actors?
Yes.
I think I've got it. Is it The Wrenchwarmers?
It is The Wrenchwarmers!
You're unbelievable.
Oh!
Nice. I'm fired today.
Yeah!
This is good. Didn't expect
No
you to talk
spanners
about the
in our
Benchwarmers.
works.
No, absolutely not. Or wrenches either. I'm going to save my other one to last because I like that one more.
Okay.
I'll go with this one, which I don't like as much. And it might be a bit harder. We'll see how we go. Freshly paroled, this hero or protagonist finally gets to fly home to his old lady. But he has to do so on a plane full of dangerous criminals with plans of their own. Like a skilled musician in a deadly concert, our ex-criminal has to navigate a checkered cast of rogues and get himself home.
Okay. Is it Conservatory Air?
He's got it!
You're unbelievable.
Oh! Put the bunny down. So good. Alrighty.
Damn, nice one. I was a bit worried that I didn't do a good summary enough for that one.
I got you. Alrighty, here we go. A young boy afraid of his own shadow gets stranded at a bookstore when he gets caught in the rain wearing a big yellow jacket. Originally hesitant to go on an adventure, it doesn't take long for the adventure to catch up with him. In no time, he is saying hot dog to pirates, haunted houses, and dragons.
That's an elite plot summary. Nice
Hall of
one.
Fame?
Oh, yeah. It's in there. That is the Hall of Fame. Is it the Page Mustard?
It is the Page Mustard.
Oh! That one's really good.
Yeah. I never get that kind of a response.
That's really good. All right. This somewhat comedy film focuses on a man who is simply coasting through life with very little to grasp onto. Our hero and his best friend have to rise to the occasion to use sharp and sometimes blunt force to battle an outbreak that threatens to ruin their town, when really they just want to have a nice cold pint. Our main character has to grasp onto silver weapons and find a way to keep his loved ones safe and prove that he is up for the challenges of life.
Is it Shaun of the Lead Pipe?
He's got it!
You're unbelievable.
Oh! All right. We've been doing so well. Let's finish on a high note.
Bring us
here.
home, Mr. Brown. Let's go.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, an ancient order that is at the end of their tether must recruit a young warrior to restore the balance. At first, he is a little tied up farming moisture, but that is not a priority after his aunt and uncle are burnt to a crisp, so he ends up throwing himself into the fray.
Am I looking for like the original title and a subtitle?
Just the subtitle's fine.
Okay.
You can say the original title as well if you'd like.
Okay. Can I hear it one more time, please?
You sure can. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, an ancient order that is at the end of their tether must recruit a young warrior to restore the balance.
Okay.
At first, he is a little tied up farming moisture, but that is not a priority after his aunt and uncle are burnt to a crisp. So he ends up throwing himself into the fray.
Is it Star Wars A New Rope?
He's done it!
You're unbelievable.
Oh! Fantastic.
What a round of mashups,
It was
Mr.
pretty
Brown.
good.
We
It
were
was
on fire.
pretty good.
We were on fire like that candlestick.
Like that candle.
Woo! Whoa, spicy. Oh, whoa.
Oh dear.
That was good fun.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you again, guys, for such a great suggestion for this week. Something we didn't mention earlier when thanking people was that it was part of a selection dedicated to Ethan for his birthday. I'm not sure he was particularly happy with the final choice, but the people spoke. And I was very glad they did, because I had a ball with this one, and it spawned a lot of extra fun segments for us too.
It did. This is it's been a while since video pods.
Yes.
And we've made a return that has been, I think, very enjoyable. So it's been a good time.
Lively. As always, guys, please do remember to like, subscribe, share it around, especially because it is a video one. It takes a little bit longer, so if you do like this, please let us know. It spurs us on to keep doing fun stuff like this. Look, we have come to the end of this, and Mr. Boylan and I are going to go home and sleep with our wives. No, just joking. We don't have wives. But thanks very much, guys, and catch you at the next film club.
See ya.